So it is now 5 minutes past the hour. I think it would be a good time to kick it off. Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Adam Klecheski, and I am the head of growth at Learnwise for the US and APAC. I've been with the company from the very early stages, and I'm really excited to host and MC our very first webinar today with uh, Greg Marschall, my colleague, as well as Dr. Nic Earle from the University of Gloucestershire. Today, we'll be speaking about optimizing student support with AI, and we'll go through this agenda. Firstly, we'll meet the speakers. We will speak a little bit about what is Learnwise, what is the company, and what are we doing, and then move on into how and why Learnwise is being used with some insights shared from Dr. Nic Earle, as well as the implementation feedback and next steps that their institution is taking in regards to this technology. And we will save plenty of time at the end for some questions and answers, as well as some discussion. So if you do have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to leave those in the chat, and we'll make sure to get to those at the very end. And with that, I would love to go into the introductions of our speakers. Greg?
Thanks for the introduction, Adam. So my name is Greg Marschall. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Learnwise.ai. If we've met previously, it may very well be from my time at Canvas and in Structure, previously a part of the Impact team as well. So lots of history in educational technology, and really excited to be here and tackle support for higher education with Learnwise. And I'll pass over to you, Nic.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Nic Earle. I work at the University of Gloucestershire. My role is Strategic Academic Project Manager. And as that title suggests, I do indeed manage major change projects, but I also manage a number of services and staff within the academic development unit, including our academic development officers and our learning technology support team. My projects very often involve rolling out and developing integrating technologies, and as you'll hear in a moment, in this case, I'm driving a project to use technology to enhance our student support. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nic. And now we'll jump into what is Learnwise, and we will be shared that information by Greg. So Greg, I'd love for you to kick this off.
Thanks so much. So yeah, what's Learnwise all about? Well, from our history in education, what we realized is that it's really important for students and faculty to get the support they need at the moment they need it, wherever they happen to be, no matter what language they speak, no matter what platform they're on, no matter what time of the day it is. There should always be a resource available for them. And that's why we've developed Aiden. Aiden is our AI-powered campus assistant that's available wherever and whenever you need it to provide you that instant level of support. So what does that look like in practice? Well, in practice, it's really 24/7 student support at the moment of need. So in this case, in Moodle, in Blackboard, in Canvas, on your website, in your student portal, really anywhere where your students and faculty spend their time, we can provide a personal level of support based on the existing documentation that you have at your institution, as well as over 400 other educational technology apps where we have created and maintained content on supporting those different educational technologies as well. If the answers cannot be answered by AI, we also make sure that students and faculty can get to the right help desk at an institution when they need it. So a big problem with AI is often that it's making things up or hallucinating. So one of the most important things that we've done here is make sure that every answer comes with a citation. So we've taken your existing university resources like your website, your knowledge base, your SharePoint, any files that you have about FAQs, as well as any information in your student portal, create answers based on that existing content, and then make sure that students always have a way to find the origin of that information. But sometimes you need to put a human in the loop. Sometimes someone needs to come in and really resolve the issue. And that presents a new problem. And in many cases, the student doesn't necessarily know who to even speak to about that. So signposting, but as well as directing to the right help desk that's integrated as a really important portion here, where we can escalate questions, whether it's to student services, IT, to the counselor office, etc., to the right place to get those resolved, instead of putting them in another place where someone needs to route them around. That's definitely something that the AI can handle. So what does this look like in real life? What does it look like in an actual environment? So what I'll do here really briefly is just show you in 3 steps how to build an AI assistant. I'll show you a few different launch points, as well as an interesting new one around course content that we've recently developed. So what I'll do here is I'll hop over into the Learnwise admin panel. And this is just a demo account. And I'll go ahead and edit one assistant that we've created here. And as you can see, everything is completely customizable in this assistant, from the welcome message that you see at the beginning, to the shortcut buttons, to the branding and disclaimer messages. The most interesting thing here, I think, is the knowledge, right? So how do you train this assistant to learn from the content that you have? Well, what you can do here is really just select the relevant learning management system that you're using. So you can just click Blackboard or Moodle, and the AI knows suddenly everything there is to know about supporting those different tools. From there, you can also extend that with other learning applications. So for example, Turnitin.com, you just add it to the knowledge base, and now the AI has that content repository to back up on. So that's great for out-of-the-box content, but what about the institution-specific content? What about your websites, your SharePoints, etc.? This is really where you're able to add that information and add your own resources and train the assistant based on your own documentation in just a few clicks. So we update that every single week. We go and pull any changes that have occurred to those websites as well. So from there, if you need to then escalate your request, let's say you have a question that needs to go to a human, to a help desk, what you can do is press contact support, and that'll give you an overview of all the different help desks that are available to escalate. So this is how to build an assistant in just a few steps, but what does the publish step look like? What does it look like when it's launched in an environment that you're using? Well, one method is to launch it inside your learning management system. So here's a little preview of what Learnwise looks like inside of Canvas LMS. It just pops up here in the bottom right corner. As you can see here, this is one that we've built for CSU Chico in the US, and I can write a question like, how do I upload an assignment in Canvas? And I'm getting instant answers back on how to go through that process with inside the Canvas environment, as well as getting links back to where that answer actually came from. So let's give that one a thumbs up. Another use case would be on a public website. So this is an example from the VU, the Vrije Universiteit in the Netherlands. And what they use this assistant for is to help instructors search and understand all the resources that are available for them in terms of educational technology. So I can ask a question here like, what is feedback fruits, which is another popular educational technology piece, and we get a nice description, what it's for, how the VU uses the tool, and how to learn more information about it. So helping faculty really improve their use of technology. And now I'll jump into another instance here that's very close to the University of Gloucestershire as well. This is Learnwise embedded inside of My Day, which is a student portal product by Ready Education. So what you can see here is that Learnwise is pulled up on an individual page. Students can hop in, ask any questions that they have around student services or tech support, and we get a nice answer here, for example, how to log into Moodle, getting to the right resources, and who to ask follow-up questions about. Then the last use case that I'll show you here is actually how to use Learnwise within a course. So here we are in a Canvas course, and what we've done is embedded Learnwise as an LTI application within the course itself. So here as a student, I'm able to come in and actually ask questions about the course content itself. So here I've asked something like, what can I learn in week 3 about my Let's Chat About Music course? And I'm getting back here a nice answer about the music theory around constructing major and minor scales to help me really take in that information that was in my course previously, as well as with a link to the actual assignment from which this information came from. So it allows me to kind of take another level with the content available here and interact with it dynamically. So from support perspective, whether it's inside of the classroom, outside the classroom, whether it's students, whether it's faculty, there's a use case here really for everyone and on every platform. So that's really what I wanted to emphasize here. And I think it's really a nice deep dive in the following piece here on how it's working at the University of Gloucestershire.
Thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate that overview. I also wanted to just mention one thing before we dive into your portion, Dr. Nic, is if you haven't been able to chat, if you we're enabling the chat functionality for the participants now, so you will be able to chat with us. We just need to tweak a few things on our end. But if you do have questions, please save those and we will enable those. Now, on to you, Dr. Nic from the University of Gloucestershire. Would love to hear your insights about how your institution has been using LearnWise for the past months and the process that you've been taking in that regard.
Well, thank you, Adam. Very happy to talk about this. So whoever's controlling the slides, I don't know if it's Greg or Adam, but if you could, yeah, just advance us. Okay, so I'm just going to start just to explain a bit more about the context and what we're trying to achieve for our project. But we are essentially implementing a LearnWise AI assistant to assist our students with their inquiries. We've about 12,000 students, our organisation, and this is very much aimed at supporting all of them. So it's existing students, so it's not prospective students, it's those that have already enrolled. And when I talk about inquiries, I'm not talking about requests for support with very specific module learning activities or assignments, but I am talking about absolutely everything else. So anything such as accommodation, well-being, money advice, IT, library, all of those type of things and many more, that's what we're talking about. And just to give you a little bit more context, we have a number of campuses at the University of Gloucestershire, and each of them has a physical help desk, very much a frontline help point for students. And between them, they receive about 60,000 inquiries per year from students. And actually, the number of inquiries is even more than that because we have a large number of second line teams, which students often send inquiries directly to. So it's a bit harder to get a number on that, but essentially lots of inquiries, particularly given the amount of FTE staff we actually have on those frontline help desks. Okay, so it gives you a bit of a sense of scale. I should also mention the third bullet point here is that, like most universities, we have an ongoing mission to improve this support that we provide students. And through past initiatives, we have actually produced a number of pretty good online resources that provide students with the information and guidance and resources they need. So, for example, things such as our public website that has information on things like courses and policies. We have various internal resources. We have the My Gloss portal for students, which is what we call our My Day account, which Greg mentioned a moment ago. We have some internal resources such as My Help, which are fantastic knowledge bases where students can go in and really get help on all the kind of topics we're talking about here. However, it's not always obvious to a student which of these resources they need to go to find the help they need. And not only that, these resources are vast. So when they do get to the right resource, it's not always easy for them to find the actual information or resources that they're looking for. So what we're really hoping to achieve by implementing a LearnWise AI assistant is to enable students to more easily access the support they require at the point of need, 24/7, 365. So that's our primary goal in introducing an AI assistant. We are also, of course, very much hoping that the assistant will help to reduce the volume of straightforward inquiries that come to our professional services teams. Because if we can do that, then we can free up some time, quite a bit of time actually, which from those teams, which can be redirected to other activities, adjusting, complex cases, for example. So we get to further improve the support we're providing students through that route as well. And something else, the last bullet point here that we're actually really excited about is that this technology provides inquiry analytics. So yes, it has quantitative data, how many inquiries it's got, how many is escalated, etc. But it also reports on inquiry trends. So it's going to help us to see what questions students are asking to make sure that we are providing those kind of answers within our help desk support and all the online resources we provide. And it should also help us to see how those trends are shifting over time. So I think this is a really powerful aspect of the technology. So that's what's behind us implementing an AI assistant. So yes, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit about why we sort of decided to work with Learnwise. So at the outset, we reviewed a number of AI providers, as you do. In fact, we reviewed quite a few, actually more than we might usually, because there's a lot out there. We also needed to learn a lot more about the technology and what our own requirements might be. So we actually did quite a thorough analysis of different options. And we ended up settling on Learnwise for a good number of reasons. Firstly, what we noted in quite a few of the solutions that are out there is that they required you to create vast question and answer sets. So there might be an element of generative AI to help understand what the student was looking for, but an awful lot of work needed to go into building these question answer sets. You know, we anticipated about 1,000 questions. Not only that, they then need to be maintained. And we've already got lots of resources, which, you know, is a bit of a push to make sure we keep those updated as it is. So a lot of colleagues at my organisation really were a bit put off by the idea of developing question answer sets, then trying to maintain information in essentially two sources, because it could be very easy if one's not maintained properly to end up with conflicting information if you've got two sources of truth. So we saw Learnwise and we were really attracted to the approach where you can actually, you know, leverage the good work we've done before. We can quite simply point the assistant towards the resources that we've got, and actually put something quite useful in place for students. And the Learnwise team were great. They very quickly did a mock-up assistant for us using our public-facing websites. We didn't give them access to internal ones until we agreed a contract, but just based on that public sort of exercise, we ran a few tests and it actually worked really, really well. So this was very encouraging. And I'll be completely honest, it's a more affordable solution for us because there's some out there, you know, we've you know, already used at some universities, but they're eye-wateringly expensive. Not something that we could run to. But something else that we were really impressed with were the Learnwise team's understanding and focus on education. Not just education, actually, their understanding of generative AI is really, really quite impressive. And the other thing about the Learnwise team was their offer to work collaboratively. So rather than just giving us a product, a little bit of training, they really wanted to work with us to help us really make sure that we have this technology really set up and optimized for what we needed to do. And I have to say, so far after many months, that is absolutely working incredibly well, that collaboration. So these are the reasons we chose the Learnwise solution. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about the implementation process. So we got started with the work about 3-4 months ago, I think now, 3 or 4 months ago. And the first step was to do some initial setup. And Greg's already given you a glimpse of the admin portal. It was actually incredibly easy to set up. We just pointed it at the various resources we've got. We had to give the assistant a kind of university account so it could access some of our internal resources. But the process was pretty straightforward. We did, in conjunction with that, do step, it's marked as 2 here, but we kind of did it at the same time as 1. What we did is we got our marketing department to do an additional content audit on, this is an internal exercise, to make sure that our resources were as up to date as they can be. They tend to do that every summer anyway, but they did an additional one during spring just to make sure we get this fit for purpose, because we realized that with this kind of approach, the assistant can only be as good as the information you feed it. So we did this internal exercise to, you know, make sure all our various knowledge sources were fully up to date. What we then did is lots of extensive testing of the first version of the assistant. Steps 1 and 2 were done very quickly, and actually we had initially hoped to do a bit more of a pilot, but our executives, for various internal reasons, asked us to delay the start of the projects. So we kind of lost that if we want to launch this by September, which is our aim. So what we've done is increase that focus on extensive user acceptance testing. So what we've done is tested with different groups. So we tested extensively with our professional services teams that support students. We went out to each of them and gave them 2 weeks to ask ask the assistant all the kind of questions that students asked them. So that was a really big piece. We also got a group of volunteer students together. They were found by our careers coaches, our student voice assistants organised by the institute, groups of research students, for example. So I had a group of students test that. And then we moved on and got a volunteer group of academic colleagues to test the system as well. What I'll do, if you just advance the slide, I'll come back to this slide in a moment, but if you could just go to the next one. What we did is actually use the technology to collect feedback, which is very interesting. It worked extremely well, I have to say. What you're looking at here actually is a screenshot from the Learnwise admin panel, and you can see, this is at the end of our testing, you can see the number of conversations. So we've got almost 1,600 conversations that went into the system. And just to the left of that, you can see that actually the system was resolving satisfactorily 85% of the inquiries that came in, which we were really surprised about, but hugely encouraged about as well. In actual fact, the percentage could be even higher than that, because what we did ask people to do is to start a new conversation when they started a new line of inquiry, but many people missed that instruction and actually asked lots of inquiries, and then when they saw a problem, escalated it. Okay, so actually the figures could be even more positive than that. And what we did to get them to flag where there was an issue, we actually got them to use what we will be using as the help desk escalation route. We got them to use that to indicate when an inquiry was an issue and to put in a bit of information about what the problem was, or the things that we might be able to do to fix it. And what we've ended up with essentially is 239 inquiries that we then needed to go and have a look and see how we could fine-tune the responses by September. So the Learnwise team actually then did something which was very helpful. They did an Excel of those inquiries into a spreadsheet. It was brilliant. So we got this big spreadsheet with each of the issues on a row, and we did a first sweep of that, which didn't take too long. We marked up which internal team will need to look at that. We marked up a priority. So we are now in the process, which is the step 4 on this slide, of teams responsible for that particular area to go in and have a look at tweaking the content we've got online. It might mean creating some new content. It might be rephrasing some of the stuff we've got up there. It might mean retesting. So this is the phase that we're in, and we'll be in this phase for the next month or two. Okay. I would have to say as well, actually, that the Learnwise team have also been really great here. They've been very engaged with looking at this, and there are a number of things that they spotted where they go, hang on a minute, there's some themes emerging here. One example is we've had people saying, I've asked it how many schools you've got, or I've asked it what these steps are, but it's only given half. So, Greg, Adam and colleagues come, well, actually, that looks like it's truncating things, and they go away and within days come back with a technical fix, and it works beautifully. So we've seen a lot of that, and it's just improving whole, swathes of inquiries very quickly. So it's an interesting process. We're working our way through that at the moment, as I say, with the view to launching in September. And the other thing just about our process, it's worth mentioning, you can see at the bottom of the slide here, communication engagement campaign. We've been focusing on an ongoing campaign to communicate to users what's happening, engaging where we can through the testing, for example. And part of that, we actually did a competition to get students to name the assistant, which was great. We actually agreed over our students' union 5 names, and then we got students to vote on their favourite one. We thought we'd do that rather than have a free-for-all, just so we can avoid an assistant's name bottom up bot face or something like that. And the students overwhelmingly voted on Nova. Burns like a star, bright like a burning star, something like that. So our assistant is now called Nova, and it's really quick and easy in the panel, in the admin panel, just change that name. By entering that competition, students got a chance to win a £50 Amazon voucher. So that's how we encourage people to do that. So yeah, those sort of things we've been doing as well. Okay, if you could just advance, I think we need to go a couple of slides now, please.
Right. So I think the next thing is, what did all this testing turn into? What is the assistant that the students and the faculty members have been trying out? So why not just give it a go and ask a couple of questions here live? So here we open the assistant here in the bottom right corner, and let's start with a general question that many students have probably asked in their days, which is, how do I need an extension? How do I get one? So let's see what our answer comes back with here from the AI. So we have the different extension types. That's already really helpful. So we got the EC1, the EC2, and we got the phone numbers that we can contact, the right email addresses as well, and some important information that you better apply for that extension early on before the deadline is reached. So some immediate answers here, and of course the resource within the SharePoint here that brings you the source of the information. So on top of that, let's ask something a little bit more in practice. So let's say I'm studying. I need to study late. How long is the library open? So let's see if we get some opening times from the library here. Okay, libraries are open 24/7, 7 days a week. You can always access them wherever you are. And here are the different resources also available at the library, and you can get the links to those different placements as well. Any other quick questions we want to ask the assistant? Let's see. One of my other favorite ones is a little bit around parking. I think that's a classic one as well. If you're driving to the school, where can I park on campus? And we get a little answer back here on parking right on the campus. And you can see as well, it's going to come back with charges as well. So you already know what to expect in terms of pricing for your car as well. So quite some fun use cases there. And students have asked all kinds of crazy questions as well.
And just to clarify, Greg, and Dr. Nic, these are all answers that came with, this is all based on information that was already within your institution. You didn't have to upload any additional documents or create any new information?
No, that's absolutely correct. This is all just pulling from information that we've already got published online for students on our various web-based resources. It's really quite impressive.
We're happy to hear that. Thanks for that, Greg. I know that was a little bit of a holding our breath moment, but I think it worked out well.
Always fun to do things in the live. So let's go back here to the slides and continue from there. So I'll pass back to you here, Nic, on some of the lessons.
Thank you. Okay, so I thought I would just talk a little bit more about some of the key things that we've been learning so far. I have to say, overall, it is going incredibly well. The technology is doing things that I could scarcely believe before I started. I'll start with number one there. It is indeed, as we'd hoped, incredibly quick and easy to set something up that works really well. Rarely, I've been working with technologies, learning technologies for years, and rarely have I seen something which you can, put so minimal investment of time in up front and actually see some real, results very quickly. There are a few responses, as you've seen, that we need to refine, and it's probably taking a little bit of effort, a bit more than we would like, but it's still way less than we believe it would be to set up a vast question and answer set. And not only that, we're finding that it can respond to a far wider set of questions than just 1,000 questions, which would probably be our aim with a Q&A set. Secondly there, as part of our feedback, as well as the mechanism flagging things through the system, we have done focus groups for the various stakeholder user groups. And one of the things that came up there actually is that participants found Nova far more helpful than they had expected, especially the students. So they were quite skeptical about it when they went in, but their trying out of the assistant actually changed their thinking, which was great to see, really good to see. So they were very positive from our point of view. Number 3, Nova absolutely does make accessing the information and resources scattered across our different resources much easier to access. One thing we had noted is that some people just very naturally just ask follow-up questions if they don't get the information they need straight away. We notice some people don't do that in quite the same way. Don't think this is a big issue at all, but we're giving a little thought as to kind of how we can just encourage people to think about how you follow up and probe a bit more just through our comms, and perhaps we'll have a little video in there eventually, just some tips about how to use Nova most effectively. So not a big thing, something that we've noticed though. I don't think it's much different to using the Google search engine, really. You learn your tips and techniques, don't you? So it's just getting people into that kind of a mindset to come at it in a different way, perhaps treat it more as a conversation. 4th point there, yeah, we have found that students ask an enormous range of inquiries. I mean, I think they sit down in front of this, it looks very much like ChatGPT, so they think they can ask it absolutely everything, and they do absolutely everything, right down to where's the best pizza in town. We've not trained it on resources like that, but we could send it to a link to local sites to talk about, what's going on, etc. We might well do that later down the line. But what I have observed through the testing that we've done is, although students will throw this out there, they do accept that there are limitations into the support that Nova can assist them with. More so than our academic colleagues, actually. They need a bit of more reminding about what the scope of what we're trying to do here actually is. But the students do seem to understand that. Number 5. Okay, now I've got to say some things about the Learnwise team here. They are excellent. I've worked with a lot of teams, a lot of suppliers, small and large, and they are extremely responsive when it comes to making technical enhancements, very, very quickly as well. So yeah, I must say that has been excellent. I mean, it's not just in going away making developments, it's even coming forward and proactively suggesting things that can be done to make things better. So yeah, that's actually been very refreshing actually for someone who's worked with these technologies for many years. So that's something that's extremely positive. Number 6, I think we've come to realise actually there is huge potential to get Nova, our Learnwise assistant, to be even more useful for students in the future. What we are aiming for initially is to get something in place by September that works. But what we are seeing is huge potential once we get to that point. For example, it's going to be relatively easy to link it with things like our timetabling system or our assessment system. So students can say, when's my next lecture? Where is it? Or when's my next assignment due? Or what was my feedback? So, it's just a couple of examples of all kind of things that we've got on our list to look at. So yes, if we can just get that first thing in place, working well by September, huge potential to grow its usefulness with perhaps relative ease compared to many other things that certainly I've worked on in the past. The last one there, which I think is quite interesting, is we put this in place because we want to help students with the kind of the inquiries that they tend to ask our professional services team. But I think what we're seeing are clear signs that students are going to ask questions. They're going to use it in a slightly different way. They're going to ask questions. We're already hearing this from students that they're not comfortable putting to staff. So we think actually we're paying real attention to that and thinking, particularly when it gets to the area of student wellbeing, for example, the kind of things that we put in there, the content we put behind this that will help students with those kind of content. So I think the way students are going to use this is going to really evolve actually, and we'll be able to monitor that and get that back-end support in place. So yeah, so things we're learning and some possibilities for the future, if you like. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what's next for us? So I'm going to go around this slide anti-clockwise. So yes, we're resolving knowledge gaps. So we're going to continue with our exercise to address that feedback that we've got in, and some of that's putting in a little bit more knowledge where we found a gap. I will just say here that we're, as a bit of an add-on, we're also participating in a pilot with the Learnwise team to actually use AI in a slightly different way. We have actually exported months worth of data from our university's inquiry tracking system. So that's given us a whole load of questions students actually put to professional services and the answers that humans have provided. And we have an AI that is then comparing that to the way that Nova will respond to those same questions. It's absolutely fascinating technology. Now, we're focusing on getting all the feedback addressed, so we need to come back to this, but I don't know, perhaps Greg might like to say something about that one a bit later. Early days, but I think it's going to give us a lot even further insight as to where we got knowledge gaps that we can address. So very interesting stuff there. The next one there, deep MyGloss integration. So this is where we are now integrating. Students will access Nova through the portal, our MyGloss portal, which is what we call our My Day platform, provided by Education Ready. So this is where they will access it. So we're in the process of integrating it there. But also there's lots of other content which we'll be able to, harvest from there, if you like, things about the latest staff news, maybe even what the dish of the day is in the refectory, all kinds of things that we can harvest from there. There are other things as well that could be really useful. The assessment data appears there too, so that might be the place where we start getting the provisional marks, for example, on assignments. Yes, I'm going to skip over to the bottom right there. We're looking to go live by September. So we're really excited about that. As I've already said, we want a basic system that's working quite well, and then we'll move on to seeing what else we can do with it. So one thing that's come up a lot in our testing is people saying, where is or where are? So people saying, where are the accessible entrances, or where are the nearest toilets? We've had an awful lot of this. So we weren't expecting that, because that's not what people tend to ask our professional services team, but they put the system in front of them. They seem to whip out the phones and want to ask that. So we had lots of conversation about this, and we realised the university actually has this interactive maps tool, which students and not many staff actually knew about. And those that kind of business owners were thinking of actually getting rid of it. But now we've realised it could have a really important role in what we're doing here. So we've decided to keep it. And initially we'll get Nova to signpost to it, but we can perhaps look to integrate it more closely, so it actually gives very quick responses to those kind of questions. So that's another integration that we have on our list. And then moving to the screenshot in the top middle there, I think these are things we've covered really. Other integrations, as I say, about assignments and timetabling, that type of thing. We'd also like to look at automation. I think one of the top things that comes up with students is, I've lost my student card. How do I get a new one? So what we'd really like Nova to do down the line is not just say, okay, follow these steps. We'd actually like to trigger certain processes, get that automation underway. So lots and lots of potential.
Yeah, I love that, Nic. I think it was about 20% of all of the 10,000 tickets that we analyzed in the knowledge gap report that were around student cards. And just think about the value of reducing the amount of tickets that come in on that. I mean, automation is a huge opportunity here as well. And I think, on the next slide here, we start to get into how students felt about it. And I think a lot of the items that you just mentioned, Nic, are kind of resonate in the comments from the students. I mean, it's really kind of reflected here as well.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. So I'm pretty much done with the things I wanted to share through my presentation. So I'm quite happy to let those in the meeting perhaps just have a look over some of the comments here. There's another slide in a moment with a few comments from academics. Just give people a few minutes to look at those, and then perhaps we can open up to questions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was one around as well, getting, disabled student allowance, just getting the whole broad groups involved, and the amount of different types of feedback from students was super interesting here. The details and kind of like the level of questions being also emergency related. So it really surprised me, some of the questions that the students were asking as well. And similar on the faculty side, or on the staff side rather. What stood out to me here, Nic, is the website manager here trying to break the assistant. really trying to throw in all kinds of controversial topics, trying to make the assistant do things it shouldn't do. And the result there was relatively interesting. That the worst thing it could do was say things backwards, which at least is relatively benign.
And I can tell you that the students tried to do the same thing. They did all sorts to try and make it angry or rude, and actually gave very positive feedback about it's the tone that it comes back at. It was great. Yeah, it's interesting. So yes, it holds up very well in that regard.
Amazing. It's so great to see this feedback from all different kinds of users, from the students to the faculty members who are even trying to break it. Now we will kick off, and thank you both, Greg and Dr. Nic, for that presentation and for going through those points. We're going to kick off our question and answering portion, and would love to open up the floor to anyone in the audience who has any questions, but I would love to kick that off myself first and address a few things. I think it's really important. We have educators in attendance right now, and one of the things that always comes up when it comes to implementing new technologies is the idea of coordinating this across multiple different teams within your institution. It's something that's always, it can be very challenging, and something like an AI assistant, which covers a lot of ground, there's the support side, there's the tech side. What support teams and what teams in general were involved in this project, and how did you systematically align all of those teams and all those individuals to make this project a success and to even get it off the ground in the first place?
Okay, so this is a big project involving an awful lot of teams. Very big. I mean, this does, like any good project, start with a business case with really clear objectives. And we identified all the key stakeholders in professional departments, the academic schools who need to be involved. So they're involved right from the start in scoping that business case and getting their support. As I mentioned earlier, the engagement is a really big thing. So what we did when we were looking at different software options, we would organise demonstrations, discussions, and we would invite representatives from particularly all the stakeholder groups from the professional services teams. And actually, we have about 29 professional services teams that support students at some level across 9 departments. But we also got Students' Union in, so they could send some representatives, our marketing department, who look after various websites. Lots of people around the table, all involved in those kind of presentations. And we invite them all to have a go on the mock-ups as well that were produced. So right from the early stage. We then obviously have governance for this as a project. We have each of the key departments represented on a project board, and then I chair a project delivery team, which again has a representative from all of those areas. And then it's a massive comms campaign. Is a really key thing. Making sure people know what's happening, opportunities to ask questions, make suggestions. So being out doing presentations at all kinds of forums that we have as well. So yeah, does that answer your question? Or is there anything that I've missed?
No, definitely. I think it gives a very clear understanding. I mean, you have a ton of experience in this field, and from the sound of it, you also have a ton of experience evaluating the different tools. So it gives, I hope, the audience and any future viewers a good understanding of what kind of effort it takes to actually take something from scratch, evaluate it, and actually bring it live. I think that's the important thing. So I really appreciate those insights from you, Dr. Nic. I would love to as well just briefly ask Greg, as your CEO, the founder of this company, obviously AI is becoming such an important consideration for across the board. Doesn't matter if it's education or in general. But in terms of your vision of LearnWise and the things that we're doing to improve, what kind of factors and what kind of roadmap do you see into the future? I would love to, we're still early stages, but I would love to get your opinion and kind of understand what you're looking at for the next 1 year, but even further past that, 3 or 5 years. Really, what is the potential for AI? in higher education for this context?
Sure. I mean, I think everybody sees AI in education a little bit differently and has their own viewpoint on it. I think from an early level here, it's important to surface AI support wherever the student might be. And that doesn't just mean, being able to launch the assistant here or chatting with your institution on WhatsApp. It really means having additional information about the student and the context they're in. So the future of education is personalized, and so is the future of AI, right? So the more information that we're able to pull in about what the student is currently working on, their context, their, how many days of attendance they had last week, is all factors that are going to help us build a better experience to help keep the student engaged and keep them progressing at the institution and improve retention rates over the long term. So I think personalization is a huge one. I think being everywhere and pulling in data from the different resources is a big one. So it's really an ecosystem approach, being around the entire ecosystem of the institution. And from a technology perspective, I mean, I think we can all get excited about what we see every couple of weeks and months being released in the world of AI. I think there's great opportunities around multimodal, vision, voice, and other modalities that come into AI. And we're really excited about those, and we'll be previewing those to many of you on the call here today soon as well.
Great. Appreciate that insight. And I think if there are no other questions from the audience, I think it would be great to just give everyone here an opportunity by moving on to this last slide to actually see what this looks like for yourself. So if you do want to try this for your institution, we would be happy to set up some type of trial demo, some way that you can actually try what it's like to have an AI assistant at your institution and experience hopefully some of the benefits that University of Gloucestershire had. Wrapping up here, Dr. Nic, is there any last things that you would like to add? Any last points that you would like to make before we wrap up?
I don't think so. No, just thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing today. I look forward to continuing the good work that we're doing and getting our assistant launched by September.
Thank you so much. Well, I speak for both Greg and I when I say we really, really appreciate your time and opportunity to come and speak to you in this regard. It's really amazing to work with your institution, and we're very much looking forward to all the future potential that we have with this kind of project. And I'll just give it back to Greg to wrap up and finish up this webinar.
Perfect. So thank you everyone for joining. If you have any questions, want to try this out, want to build your own assistant, just let us know. We're happy to hop on a call and discuss your institution. And thanks again, Nic, for joining us, and Adam for being such a great MC here. So appreciate everyone, and have a good day. Speak to you all again soon.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.